flying in, same for the team.
The game is yours to play now.
The light provides.
This is Eventide Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Eventide Radio. This is a fan-made Destiny podcast where we have roundtable discussions about a variety of different topics concerning the popular video game franchise. At its core, this show is about having in-depth discussions about the game from a variety of different perspectives. I'm your host Scott, and with me are my co-hosts Rob and Map, and today we're going to be touching on the new Pantheon game mode, diving into some Destiny 3 rumors, and we'll be taking a look at some of the new exotics that are coming in final shape that were revealed pretty recently. But, of course, as always, before we dive into all this stuff, Rob, what have you been up to this week in Destiny?
The new, reprised 0 Hour mission came out.
Yes.
Been grinding Pantheon, which we'll talk about, and playing the new maps, and just trying to, finish some stuff out, before, the end of the season, / before the expansion starts.
I found it funny with the 0 hour thing when they, I guess people were complaining that it was too hard, and they just came back yeah, it's supposed to be hard. Right.
And it's really not. I could definitely see it being pretty brutal on, if you're doing it solo.
Sure.
But, interesting enough, I think Legend is, the enemies are, the same difficulty as normal. So Legend's, kind of arguably easier, and it's really not bad. I kind of found out that, a single Dragon's Breath shot is, enough to take out, a spider tank at the end. Wow. It's really not that bad. It's... I when I first read that, because I didn't do it the first night, because we were playing Pantheon, and I saw these things of everyone's oh, it's got to be bugged, and I was oh, okay, well, I'm glad I didn't try to run it this night. And then everyone's they tweeted out no, it's meant to be this difficulty. I'm Jesus, how bad is this? And I and then we went and ran it, and we got it on our first try, and it was that wasn't that bad. I'm not trying to belittle people, but I don't know what the yes, relative to Whisper of the Worm, because Whisper is pretty easy. Yeah, even then the enemies are pretty rough. It's meant to be kind of hard. It's an exotic craftable. There should be a little bit of challenge behind it. It shouldn't just be free.
Yeah.
And if you've run it before and you have it, it's not going to be that difficult. So everyone needs to stop crying so much. That's my hot take for the day.
Matt, what have you been up to this week?
PvP. That's about it. I wanted
the new maps.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying them. I don't like. I've forgotten the name of it. The one set on the pyramid ship.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like it. Some of the angles on it are a bit weird.
I agree with you on that.
Just for what I was running at the time, but I really like the Neomuna one and the Europa one.
Okay.
I think they're some of the best maps we've had in a long while. Well, we haven't had maps in a long while.
Sure.
But
this is what they've been working on for several years.
Yeah.
These two
I
maps.
can see with some of them. But no, the Neomuna one is really good.
I haven't actually played any of them.
You should.
Yeah,
I'm afraid to touch PvP. I haven't touched Crucible in a long time.
You touch the Crucible and you like it. No.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to kind of talk about. There's new maps. There's the new game mode hardware, which I don't know if you've touched that either, Map, but I kind of dig it. Because it's no abilities. And, that sounds oh, okay, cool. But, no, I mean, it's nothing other than your jump. And it's so satisfying to feel all this time.
So I haven't played it. Wait.
Oh, really?
Do you get your secondary jump as well? Is it just
Yes, yeah, it's not just single jump. So you have
I was running Blink earlier. I like doing that occasionally.
Yeah,
I was going to say going into that on Blink Warlock, you just don't have Blink at all. It's it's an ability. Sorry.
Yeah, and there's definitely some weird things that kind of bypass the no abilities thing. If you run Precious Scars as a Titan and you get a solar kill, you still get restoration to proc. Or supposedly, you can still get the Lance Cap ability to proc as well, so you can get a spear that that has no business being in there. So there's a few goofy things that bypass, and you can proc Radiant from the artifact if you get enough precision hits with a solar weapon. So it's stuff like that where it's that kind of feels like it shouldn't have been like it feels like a bypass because now you have a way to actually get like a damage buff outside of like actually having to get a kill with a gun or like a melee ability. But
Can you use your class ability?
no class abilities. Like it's nothing.
Ooh.
So it is 100% like
I have to try that then.
movement.
I just haven't tried it, which is really surprising actually.
Yeah, it's 100% movement and gun skill, and it feels good to be like rewarded for putting in the time and effort to like be accurate.
Yeah.
So it's worth trying out. It definitely like I was playing with a couple buddies the other night, and some people really like it because they hate the ability spam, and other people are like, this doesn't even feel like Destiny now because it's like there's no space magic at all. But it's like, okay, but that's like, this isn't going to be in every game mode. It's just like kind of a fun thing to try out, and I think it feels really rewarding if you get like a good like cadence going and you're like, so
Yeah.
but it's fun.
That's cool. That sounds neat. Are they running that through labs first?
Yes, yeah, it's a labs thing.
Gotcha.
So.
What's the I'm curious as to what the statistics are, honestly, as to like how much stuff that goes through labs actually becomes like a consistent game mode.
It's been hard to track because I feel like stuff comes out of it that's not necessarily what it went into labs as.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
But it's cool. Like I think it's same with the maps. Like I will say, like there was some sweaty ass beards coming out of the woodworks to play the new maps. Like you can tell people that have not played Destiny in a very long time.
I don't think sweaty players are neckbeards. They're the scrawny kids who sit there drinking Red Bull. That's for me.
That's true.
I don't sit there. I'm not scrawny and sit there drinking Red Bull. But I guarantee you, most of the really sweaty people who bag you are probably like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, I know that's
maybe
fair.
a bit older now, but going back to around like end of D1.
Exactly. Like they are clearly people like they don't have it. They're not affiliated with any clan. Like you can see by their like seasonal triumph score thing or whatever that resets every season. Like they're all like level 5s or 6s. Like they haven't touched the game in a really long time, but because there's new maps, like they are out in full force and just the sweatiest SOBs you'll ever play against. And and there's no precedence for it because they're all
you
using...
mentioned that, and I did see someone earlier. They were running Ace and not Ace, Crimson, and the craftable fusion from the Witch Queen. I forgot the name.
Oh,
the
that void one that...
Yeah, and they clearly hadn't played since Witch Queen.
Right. Exactly.
And so I saw them on the enemy team, and I did think like they'd just come back.
Crimson?
So there
is Crimson good again?
I have a special hatred for that gun, because every time you get shot by it, it feels like you're being like hit with like a nail gun or something.
Yeah.
Just I don't know what it is about it. The flinch it gives.
It's the flinch and the burst.
Yeah, I just hate it. Like it's not even when it's like absolutely terrible in the meta, I still hate it. Just because I just hate being shot by it. I don't know, it's just personal gripe. So if you see me in PvP, you shoot me with a Crimson, that's it.
No, but it's been fun to play. It's just like I will not go in with a 3-stack because the only 3 stacks you play against are just Omega Sweat Lords. That like there was one where they were all 3 running Lemon Rocks and bagging after like every kill, and it's like, what are you doing? Like it just the weirdest, most toxic, like, and it's like they're so proud of themselves. It's like, yeah, okay, cool, man. Like,
I don't really see people running like it for the bow switch anymore.
No, I think they're just running like all 3 of them. If they all inflict poison, like you're done for. Like,
yeah, you are.
Like it's just weird stuff where it's like you can tell they haven't played in a while, and they're like, oh, is Lemon Rock still good? Like I'm going to use that. Like you said, like the Crimson, the craftable void.
Why did you call it Lemon Rock? I'm quite
because that's like something that one of my buddies calls it Lemon Rock, and so it's like I can't pronounce it Lemon Arc anymore. Like I have to call it Lemon Rock. Lemon Arc.
Right, so one of my friends I used to play Trials with, he needs to come back to the game. He would call it Lee Monarch, like that. He'd go, "Oh, are they running Lee So we used to say the
I
piss
like
to say
Lee
that
Monarch.
yeah, like his name is Lee, so we just call the gun Lee. Oh, it's Lee.
That's awesome.
Lee Monarch.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But you might see more of that actually because they're updating some guns, and we're going to be able to get enhanced versions of perks on some more World Loophole and like Crucible guns, and Rose was one of them, which I'm very happy about. But you're going to get people who are going to be like get higher handling from something, and you just just hot swap to it.
Sounds kind of neat.
That makes
I would like a new Rose. A new Rose would be cool though.
I don't know if you'd be able to get it other than from that quest that they did for the new PvP maps, but
Sure.
oh no, you can focus it. No, I'm an idiot. You can focus it, can't you? But you'll be able to enhance the perks on it now, so that'll be interesting.
Neat.
Yeah, it should be fun.
All right, let's dive into let's touch on Pantheon. So the thing with Pantheon right now is that Map and I haven't really played it too much. So Rob, give us kind of a rundown of your experience with it so far. Kind of just like the progression as well from like week 1 to now.
Yeah,
and
so
how it's changed and whatnot.
Yeah, so that's a great way to kind of phrase it. So the first week was -5, and it was 4 bosses, and the burns were pretty manageable. You also, so there's a special kind of affix or like bonus where if you activate your class ability, you like do more damage and take less damage, and you can stack it like up to 3 times. So like right before you get to boss DPS, which like so every encounter is just one of the bosses. So it's like Golgoroth, Caretaker, Planets, and then the first week was Atrax, and then they tacked on Oryx the second week, and then now they tacked on Rolk for the third week.
Mm-hmm.
So right before you get to DPS, like you get 3 people to activate their class ability, so you get that damage buff, and then as long as someone keeps activating class ability every 15 seconds, it keeps that ×3. So that's like kind of an integral part and sort of helps like kind of make up for the -5 deficit. And so that was the first week. The second week, it was -10, and instead of the class ability, if you got a couple of headshots off with a primary, it would increase the damage of your heavy by like 20%, and you took less damage. And so it's kind of like a bait and switch light. So you could stack that with like bait and switch. So, it's not just you have to do this encounter at -20. Like there's all these kind of like things to benefit you. And so, yeah, the second week was Oryx, and you could just completely obliterate him if you had 6 people running Whisper the Worm, and that sound of 6 whisper shots going off like in rapid succession is really satisfying. Overall, the encounters are mostly the same. There's a few kind of like cheeky things added, like for example, in Golgoroth, when you take the gaze, there are invisible minotaurs that spawn on that kind of upper deck. That will kind of wreck your day if you're not paying attention to them and also shooting the orbs that are coming out of Golgoroth. And like on Rolk, every time you dunk, you spawn a tormentor that you have to kind of deal with between like dunking. And Rolk has a second buddy with him that just kind of walks around and kicks people. So you kind of have to have someone like kiting him the entire time while you're like getting to damage. So typically the thing that they've done is just added a tormentor. Like on the Oryx encounter, when you start damage, there's a tormentor that spawns, and everyone just kind of ignores him until damage goes away, and then you take care of him. And so like or on the planets encounter, you get a tormentor that spawns every time you correctly align all of the planets. And so like you can say insert tormentor, oh, that's just lazy difficulty, but they insert it in usually kind of like stressful situations that like if you have a good team and you coordinate, like when it's going to spawn, and usually what you do is you just have one person running a blinding GL, and that's like a great way to kind of take care of that situation. There's also a timer for each encounter, which equates to basically you have to 2-phase every boss. I know there's like people out there that like you can get to damage faster on some of them, so you could technically squeeze the third one in, but like for the average team, your best bet is just to try to get it in 2 encounters, or 2 damage phases, I should say.
I'm guessing that's where a lot of the backlash for it is, because I've seen a lot of resentment towards Pantheon. I've seen a lot of praise as well.
Yeah,
Of,
it's. I would say that's probably the because there's basically there's to get the title, which is Godslayer, which is like probably one of the coolest titles we've ever gotten. Is you not only have to complete Pantheon on each week and complete each boss, but you also have to get the high score at each encounter. And typically what that means is you have to do it in the time limit, because you get a huge point boost by completing it under the platinum score time. And so like that's the part that kind of ticks people off, because it's like, it's like some of these are pretty tight. I mean, if you have a team that knows what they're doing, it should be fine. But there's still like some of the bosses, I just hate to say it, are always kind of like wonky and sometimes don't do what they're supposed to, or like no matter how practiced you are, you'll have a run where just something weird happens and it's like, okay, well that sucks that was like we were doing everything right and then we just kind of like lost because of that, and you have to like start over. But the nice thing is like it's not like if you fail you have to like start the whole, like it's got checkpoints, so as long as you focus on just that one, you're fine. And it's like it's tough, I will say that. And kind of the interesting thing is like, so that first week and even the second week, we had quite a few people in our clan that were kind of interested in running it, even though they don't raid that often. And hey, anytime someone wants to raid, I'll encourage it. But like, you could kind of tell by the end of the second one that we were like struggling, because it's like, the expectation for Oryx is like everyone's gotten Whisper of the Worm. And sure, there are other damage options, but let's be honest, Whisper of the Worm is like most ideal. It's very easy to obtain. You can run through it and get the catalyst, and like if you've been doing it leading up to this, you should have like the maxed out version of it, and it should be totally fine. But there's like people that are like, oh, I don't have Whisper, I have like Briar's Contempt instead. And you're like, okay, well, it's solar and that's fine, but like, why don't you have Whisper? And so it's like, as the weeks have gone on, it's sort of like whittled down the number of people that have been like interested in doing it. And by week 3, there's like 6 or 7 of us in the clan that are like actually willing to do it and want to do it, and like are like, I will say we definitely struggled with Rolk the first night, and then we like called it there and then came back the next day, and like after like 30 minutes or something we were able to complete it. So it's like, it's just one of those where I think you have to pace yourself. Next week it's going to be -20, and they're going to add on, and they're going to add on 2 bosses where they're going to add Riven and Nezarec. And the thing that we're most concerned about is our clan has never actually like completed Riven legit. So I think that's going to be the barrier for us. And I think that's going to be the barrier for a lot of teams, is because, it's like...
Well, people were theorizing that maybe you can still cheese it.
Right.
But you can't get the score.
Right. Because you have to kill ads. Like, you have to kill a lot of ads in order to accomplish that. So, like, it might still be cheesable, so you could complete it, but you're not necessarily going to get that high score part of that challenge. So
I think I'm wondering if they'll change it so Nezarec can get on the platform.
Yeah, I'm my guess that, so they haven't really changed the way you do damage. No. It's just they have added tormentors. Usually that's like the thing.
Oh, I just thought something very evil. When you get to deeps for Nezarec, tormentors spawn on the plates.
I could see that. It spawns on like the
there's a lot of plates, though, aren't there?
Right.
There's 8 plates.
But it could be like the plates that you like to typically do damage at. Yeah. Like I could see them do it. I assume it's either going to be tormentors there, or they're going to spawn where it makes most sense is, like if you're running, there's always the time where he's going to do his, like, he either does a burst of like light or dark energy, and you have to like get the buff. Our guess is that as soon as he does that eruption, he's going to spawn a tormentor then, which makes sense, right? Because you still need to kind of finish running, right? You have like 2 or 3 plates left, and that would kind of like slow everything down and force everyone to take care of a tormentor or 2, and then you go back to like running plates. Like, so far none of the changes have been, and you know, there's probably elitist people out there that are like, oh, these could be harder. Like if you watch, there's a video where there's a team that did Rolk, like the whole Pantheon, like all 6 encounters in 20 minutes. And they're like a highly optimized like team that, you know, you can tell like they play with each other regularly and like well-oiled machine, you know. So it's like I'm sure there's people that want these to be even harder than they are, but I know like the average team I think is like struggling or not able to do it, and I think next week is going to be like the final kind of make or break. And I think we have 2 weeks basically to complete it, because after that, then Final Shape comes out, and their Pantheon's not going to be available after that. So it's definitely like it's a very limited time title and event. Here's the thing: is like the Pantheon like thing itself is actually really cool. Like it's awesome to finally get like a boss rush of raid bosses. I kind of wish that it was a little more like. You know, I originally thought it was going to be like you literally get the bosses like in the order that they came out in. So I thought like it was going to be like Atheon, Crota, Oryx, and then like Riven the first week or something like that, right? Like kind of the order that the raids themselves came out in. But it's like weird that the first encounter is like Golgoroth from Taken King, and then you jump to like Vow of the Disciple Caretaker, and then you jump to like Root of Nightmares. Like I was kind of hoping there'd be almost like a historical ramping up of the bosses, but ultimately it's so cool, and I think the unfortunate part is that it's going to go away after a couple weeks from now, which is like it's kind of, you know, we've talked about stuff like this in the past, like the Omega FOMO, where it's like, why would you invest all this time making this really cool activity that a lot of people are engaging with and having fun with, and like, you know, it's getting people to do raids. And then it's like, it's just going to go away in a couple of weeks. Like, bring it, like, why do they keep doing stuff like this?
Maybe they
That's
should
the frustrating
do it
part.
where they bring it back in, I don't know, a few months. But they make it so you can't do it, like it stays around. But you can't do Pantheon until you've done the raids that are in each one.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because I think it would then stop the LFG. I mean, stop it to an extent, but it would stop all the LFG problems that it's been causing.
Yeah, if you look on a lot of like Reddit posts, like the LFG, like if you don't have a consistent clan group to play with, and that's what I'll say has made it at least manageable, is I've got a group of like 6 or 7 other guys that I play with that are, I know what their skill level is, and I know like we've done multiple master challenges, like we've got a lot of the titles. And I know we can get it done. We've done a day 1 raid. I know Root of Nightmares is not necessarily like the ideal one, but like, you know, we've completed these things, so I know that we can get it done. We just have to like pace ourselves, and we've got a good kind of like communication where we'll go back and forth and go, yeah, this didn't work, let's try different damage. You know, like we don't just rage quit after a couple failures, but that seems to be the moment someone wipes, it's like half the people in the LFG group leave, and then it's like the other half are like, you know, so it's like you never get that opportunity to like grow with that team and get better, and like that's definitely got to suck. And that is one thing about Destinies. If you want to get into raiding, you need to find a clan and a group that's consistent and can support each other, and like otherwise you're toast. Like this is like gonna be a brutal killer, and I hate to say it, maybe not for you. Like, I think this really is meant to be, like, this is, like, the elitist side of me that's coming out. I think this really is meant to be, like, for the best of the best. Like, the people that have, you know, 50-plus raid clears on every raid and know these bosses like the back of their hand and can take on every role, right? Like Root of Nightmares is probably one of the best and worst things that has, like, contributed to, like, the raiding community, because they've made it more accessible, where there's literally, like, you can be on ad clear for this raid, but it never actually forces you to learn mechanics. And that's why I still stand by. I know this is like maybe an unpopular opinion. I think VOG is where people need to start with raids, because yes, it's easy. And I hate when people are like, oh, it's basically a strike. Like, no, it's more involved with that. But I think there is a really good escalation in like raid as you go through it, right? Like literally the first encounter is you are defending a pillar, so you're basically on ad clear. But then the second thing is you're killing things, but you have to do it in a specific order, right, with the oracles. And then you get a boss that forces you to kind of like coordinate, and you have to kill oracles, and it's like it escalates in difficulty, and with like till you finally get to Atheon, where it's randomized, so you can't necessarily always be on ad clear or, hey, I'm going to capture this plate and keep it open. Like, no, you have to sometimes kill oracles, or you sometimes have to do reading, or you sometimes have to grab relic. Like, I think that's what a raid should do, is like it forces you to like at least get your toes wet. Like none of the mechanics are extremely difficult to understand, but you have to do something. Whereas like Root of Nightmares, you can have two people just ad clear the entire time, and that I think sets people up for like weird expectations of what an actual raid is.
Well,
So,
I think I was
that's my rant.
quite funny.
That's true.
No, it's fine. I was quite funny. I was talking to my sister about this the other day because she used to play WoW a lot and do raids in WoW, and they're a lot different. And I was saying about the argument of people wanting in-game LFG, and she was like, "Oh well, WoW had correct me if I'm wrong, like matchmaking for the raids, because obviously 50 people trying to have a pre-made team of 50 people is nuts. So I get it. But I was saying to her, like, not everyone has to do a mechanic, and she's like, yeah, but some people have to do when to do healing, when to do whatever. Right. And I was like, yeah, you need to know how to play your role. In Destiny, it's not like that as such, but you need to know the mechanics. Like, it's not like in a WoW raid you have 50 different people all doing a separate puzzle.
Right.
Like 50 people doing oracles. No, I mean that would be insane.
It's a lot of oracles.
But in Destiny, it's like a lot of the raids, not all. It requires the 6 people, maybe 5, all to do something different. And I know it's the same old argument, but come on, if people cannot throw an orb in the Corrupted Strike, how can there be matchmaking in a raid? I know it's such a small thing, but I've had it in the Proving Ground Strike. Like,
grabbing the battery?
I've gone up ahead, died, whatever. And I've just watched them just sort of sit there and just not know what to do. And it's like, did they want me to pick it up? Are they being stubborn? But this has happened on multiple occasions where I've seen it, like where they just haven't touched it at all.
Right.
And I think I do genuinely think they don't know what they're doing.
I have a group of friends that I've been trying to get into raiding in dungeons and things like that. And they sometimes, like, there's only 4 of them and me, so we need like a 6th person. And that's where I've gotten like Mitch and Nam. Shout outs to my guys in the clan that have kind of helped out, but sometimes we just need another guy, and they have a buddy of theirs, and he's like, oh yeah, I want to raid. And then like when we load in, we're like, okay, we need you to like cover this oracle, or we need you to cover this, like, and I'm using VOG because it's like they're still kind of learning raids, and that's why I think like VOG is really cool. There's a lot of encounters, you get a lot of loot, like it's worth their time to play it, right? Like in terms of like some other raids can be a little like dicey on drops and how much time is invested, but you're guaranteed to at least get through a couple of the encounters, even if with like you're still learning. But like we've had this guy, we're like, okay, we need you to like stand by this conflux and just protect it, and he's like, got it. And then you go see, and he's like, run to the other side of the arena, and he's just killing ads like in some corner, and you're like, what are you doing? He's like, I just want to kill ads, and it's like, yeah, but we need you to like cover this thing so that we can actually get through the encounter. And it's like, there are some people that I think like they don't, and this is nothing against him, but it's like there are some people that just don't have, there's like a disconnect in understanding like anything beyond doing a strike where you just run from point A to point B and kill everything in your path. And if it goes anything beyond that, then they're not at all interested, which is unfortunate, but it's also like sometimes I need that realignment to understand what the breadth of like what type of people play this game, or what people want to get out of this game, I should say. And it's humbling sometimes where it's like, oh wow, you just want to shoot things and that's it. Like, okay, but yeah,
I mean, yeah,
more power to you.
I mean, I think that problem has got worse because of it's a free-to-play game. There's going to be more people who have just tried the game for ages, like, played it for free in a sense, done the free-to-play, and then after a while they've paid for a DLC and then gone straight into trying to do a raid.
Right.
Not everyone, but if fair enough, like, it's completely fine, and I get it. But it can be frustrating, especially with the in-game LFG now. So I completely understand why people doing Pantheon at the minute are getting frustrated. Like, I haven't done it yet. I don't even know if I'll get around to doing it. I'd like to, because I like doing day one raids and I like having that modifier on. But it's also having the mindset of people who also want to do that. Like, I'll happily sit there and bash my head against a wall for like a silly amount of hours because I don't do it all the time. I don't do raids every week anymore. I used to. So when I do harder challenges in raids, it's more entertaining.
It is.
Going straight into Pantheon. Because I imagine there's a lot of people who never wanted to do a raid, seen Pantheon come out and go, oh, yeah, I'll do that.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And it's a bit of a reality check.
Right. Well, and those friends of mine that kind of expressed, I've been trying to get them into raiding, and like bless their hearts, but like when the Pantheon was announced, they're like, oh yeah, I'd like to get into that, and I'm like looking at like, they still struggle with like, you don't run into a raid encounter with 2 auto rifles equipped and a heavy machine gun, right?
Yeah, I know a lot of people who run double primary, and I'm like, what? Yeah, like,
right.
Why?
Yeah, it's like, hey,
why? Like, we fought in year 1 of D2 to get rid of that shit, right? And you actively want to, like, I get in PvP if you want to have, if there's a specific build or some weird synergy you found in normal strikes that you want to try out. Fair enough. You can do what you want. It's a game. I'm not here to police you on that.
Right.
But going into like going into Oryx, running like 2 scouts or something.
Right. Right. And it's like there was literally a conversation where I was like, hey, your general layout should be a primary, secondary, and a heavy. And then like we were doing Atheon one time, and he's like, hey, like I'm running out of my heavy ammo. I'm like, and that's why you have a special, because it's like kind of your holdout weapon where you then swap to a fusion rifle or a shotgun or a sniper, and then you can like, it's like, that's why you have it. Or like we were doing oracles, and I was like, fusion rifles can typically one-shot the oracles, so that's why you probably want to have one, because you can get right up to it.
Yeah, because if you're using your heavy on the oracle, which they probably are, and then those minotaurs and wyverns are spawning, you want to use your heavy or your super on that.
Right. Or they're literally using like an auto rifle on the oracle, and it's like, and then we wipe because they don't kill it in time. And it's like, you use the primary for like the Vex that are kind of slowly swarming on you. I know we keep using Vogue, but that's, something that everyone can understand and just run that raid. You hate Vogue?
I don't know. My tolerance for it has drained.
And that's fine, because it's been out for 10 years. And I
think it's so boring. It's like, if someone went, right, I know it's a good starter raid in terms of maybe...
Sure.
Well, I don't even think that anymore, because I've done starter raids with people, and Vogue doesn't do it justice. I think it's incredibly boring compared to a lot of the other raids.
But like, what would you recommend for someone who's never raided before? Like Deepstone?
Deepstone's a good one, I think.
Yeah, but getting people through that first, like, with the bubbles where you have to like shelter from the storm, like, that's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, I know, but if you're not an asshole, you can get people through it. Like if you were genuinely doing a raid Sherpa, you could, you don't have to. Typically when people go in there, if there's one person, everyone just drives off. But even then, I know people who can't do the Gorgon maze, and they'll just leave and come back after it's done.
Sure.
And I know a lot of people who would just tell the new person to leave.
Yeah, and that's terrible. Like.
Well, in D1, I was doing a raid Sherpa once, and this person was adamant they wanted to do the Gorgon puzzle. Like, they really wanted to do every part of the raid, and we were there for an hour. Because they just couldn't do it. They were adamant they wanted to try it. We were being very patient. Well, some of us were being very patient. But they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't jump around and navigate and not disturb them and walk near them, and they couldn't do timing well, and it took us like an hour. Or the jumping puzzle next, like they couldn't just jump across the crevice. I know it was slightly harder in D1, I think. I like Val the Disciple, but that is incredibly hard to throw someone in. I have thrown someone into that, and we did do it. Sheer luck, I do think. I mean, Rolk is easy, because you can literally have 2.5 essentially people doing mechanics.
Sure.
we would just do like our team just does the one dunk strat, and that would just normally be me.
Sure.
Just for simplicity's sake. But yeah, I'd probably say Deepstone then.
I agree with you for the most part. I just think that whole first Sparrow part, because I'm just saying, like when I haven't done that much Sherpaing until recent, but like I'm just thinking like,
yeah,
so especially because these people all have like jobs and like they can't stay up super late, and so I'm thinking like, what's going to give us most drops in like per hour kind of thing, and like Vogue is one of those things where I feel confident because I've done it probably 100 times. Like I feel confident that I can walk them through and know that like by the end we'll at least get to the first boss, if nothing else, and they'll walk away with like 4 or 5 raid drops from that. But like I agree, it's slow paced. People always struggle with the Gorgon maze, and it's like no matter how many times you say don't double jump, or like there's always someone who does it, and it's like, and no one wants to fess up to it, even though it's like a warlock or a titan or a hunter who did it, and you can kind of isolate pretty quickly. But like,
all right, let's shift gears a little bit.
Yeah, Pantheon, try it out, but don't have high expectations if you don't have a solid raid team. That's I think that's just the fact of the matter is like it's not meant for everybody. Not everything needs to be like this is like the elitist, like top tier, like 1% are who are actually meant to complete it. And ultimately, that being said, you can still do like week 1 and week 2. You can go back and do them now, and they're super rewarding. Like if you get the high score, you will get like adept raid weapons. You'll get adept armor. You'll get a ton of. If you do the quest, like you're guaranteed a raid exotic from like either Deepstone or like Root of Nightmares or something like that. Like it's definitely worth your while to at least try the first couple weeks. But don't go in the last week being like, I'm going to knock out all 4 in one sitting. And it's like, you will get your ass kicked a lot and hate this game after it. So set expectations accordingly. That's the TLDR.
Definitely. All right. So a big topic shift. There have been rumors swirling around about potential Destiny 3. And a lot of this comes from, I guess the story is a while back, I guess in February, it looks like someone commented basically leaking the Prism subclass way before, it was revealed, and, prior to anyone else having any mention of this Prism subclass. We know it's called Prismatic now, but they call it Prism, and they basically said, they're like, you'll be able to mix and match abilities from different subclasses, blah, blah, blah. And, normally, I would say most sensible folks in the community don't give like a whole lot of credence to throwaway accounts posting supposed leaks or something. But considering that did turn out to be real, some people were saying, wow, maybe we should take a look at the rest of this comment. And the rest of the comment refers to Destiny 3 apparently being in development under the codename at Bungie Payback. You've probably heard that word thrown around if you've looked into the rumors at all. And so that's kind of where that comes from. So people are wondering if this is really, truly a legitimate thing that's happening. It's hard to say whether or not it's, if this is real, if it even is still in development, if it ever was, kind of thing. But yeah, what do you guys think of this? I'm sure you guys have delved into these rumors a little bit, but I'm curious if you guys think they have any credence at all, or if you just think it's all, bunch of hogwash.
Hogwash. I love that term.
I think it's hard to say. I think it adds a lot of credibility to it, the fact that they mention, prismatic.
Yeah, that's the big draw, I guess.
I imagine it was when they got this information, because I think it could be multiple things. It could be an ex-Bungie employee. It could be someone who is friends with an ex-Bungie employee. It could be someone who went to a community summit, and they got told information. Like we're going to have this subclass thing that's going to do this and that. Like no one else is going to say I knew about it because they'd be breaking NDAs. It's hard to say. Like, they had PvP players come and do stuff with the maps for them, didn't they? I don't know what specifically they did, but I think they did some testing or feedback for the free maps we just got. They could have told them about Prismatic. I doubt it. But for example, they could have done that. Then someone's leaked it. Obviously, the rest of the people, they're not going to risk pissing off Bungie or a lawsuit or being sued of any kind. So there's that. So this person could have just the Prismatic information and has then gone on to lie about what's coming up next. So there are different things that could have be true or not true or whatever. It is interesting to hear, especially since we had Luke Smith on the recent Viadoc thing say, Destiny's not ending. I mean, I kind of, that was a given. But him coming out and saying it to sort of shut people up, Destiny's going to end and they're going to focus on Marathon. They're not going to do that. I don't think Marathon is going to do that well. I hope it does well for their sake, but I don't think it's going to do that well. It's such a niche. I mean, I'll happily eat my words, but
Sure.
I think it's such a niche genre compared to Destiny and other games that they've done and other games that are out on the market now that I don't think it will pull that many people. I hope it goes well for them though. So their main income is Destiny. They're not going to just turn it off. That would be stupid. And we've talked about before the, stigma of Destiny 2. Would a D3 help? Would it make it worse? I don't know. Maybe it will, but it's basically a long rant to say it's possible. They could be chatting utter shit.
So if you were kidnapped and held at gunpoint and they asked you if you think Destiny 3 is in fact in development and will be happening, would you say yes or no?
Do I have to give a definitive yes or no? Or
yes or no? You're held at gunpoint. You need to give a yes or no.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm leaning more to yes.
Okay.
At this point. But I'm not like, if it doesn't happen, I won't be disappointed, or shocked, or...
Rob, what do you think? Do you think, do you buy this?
I think with what Mapp said, the whole, Luke Smith coming out and the way he said it of, it's not the end of Destiny 2, it's not the end of Destiny, that definitely screams to me there's something else coming, whether or not it's, a full-on sequel or it's some kind of spin-off thing, I don't know. I definitely could see there being a Destiny 3. I think my only major concern is I don't want a full reset. We did that once and
the tower gets destroyed again and you lost your whole vault.
It not just that, but we've been spoiled for a really long time by having a shit ton of things to do every day. And if we go back to one raid and 5 strikes and a handful of Crucible maps, you're going to have everyone complain just like they did in D2 vanilla. We were kind of talking about this after we recorded the show a couple weeks ago of there's also the matter of are they going to transfer all of the Eververse cosmetics that you paid for? Because if they're not going to do that, this is now what, 6 or 7 years worth of stuff that people have bought versus 2 years worth of cosmetics, and people were furious about that. Here's the thing, they have a tendency to bring stuff back, and I don't want them to bring back Vaulted Glass, like we were just talking about, a third time. At a later point when content's getting stale, it's we're going to bring back old raids that everyone loved, but this time it's going to be Scourge of the Past and Leviathan, and people aren't going to I feel like we've done that before. I'd rather them invest in making D2 more shored up and worthwhile. I think the one thing that if I what I would want to put on my wish list is the game needs to be drastically different in scope in order for it to like if prismatic is the direction that we're going, and I think we kind of also talked about this in one of the other things, is like at first I was kind of a little like weirded out by the concept of like cross elemental things, but like in a lot of other like RPGs, like that's a super common thing. Like I'm thinking of like Diablo 4 because that's just kind of a more recent, very relevant yeah, it's a more relevant thing right now, but like, you know, the build potential in that relies on you sometimes going into different elements and you know, kind of all these synergies of stuff that work together and debuffs and buffs. So it's like, I'm not against that, but I feel like the prismatic thing that we're getting next expansion is like a stepping stone into that. Like I want, if we're going to do something crazy.
That was part of the leak, supposedly, is that going forward, the only thing different from class to class will be fashion. There'll be Titan, Hunter, Warlock, but that'll only be looks-wise.
Right. But, like, I want, like, a full, like, skill tree. Not this, like, fragment aspect thing where, like, they're all the same for every character, and the only thing that really distinguishes them are, like, the fragment, or is it aspects? I don't remember which ones. They're the two terms are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Like there's not enough there to really distinguish. And like I want them to go like, okay, if you're gonna because right now the lines feel kind of blurred. Like everything, most end game solar builds revolve around proccing restoration and then Ember of Empyrean and using some kind of solar weapon to basically keep restoration up indefinitely. And every major solar kit basically does that in some capacity. I want them to kind of take that and go a step back and have it so that like, and they kind of started to do this a little bit, but like I want them to go full commit where it's like certain class or certain key buzzwords are only applicable to, or certain elemental keywords are only applicable to certain classes. Like maybe only warlocks can proc restoration and only hunters can proc radiance. And it's like, because like right now, like the class identity is sort of like getting blurred, and the only thing that seems to distinguish are our supers and like how our armor looks. Whereas like, I know I'm using like the Diablo 4 thing a lot, but like necromancers feel really different from like druids. But right now, like a Titan, Warlock, and Hunter just kind of all feel the same because they all essentially accomplish the same thing with like crazy restoration and radiance and like healing. And it's like, do something different. And I'll even go out on a limb. And I think what would really make things interesting is if in D3 they did something like make Risen Fallen and maybe even the Lucent Hive as like playable characters.
The only thing with that is they'd then have to bring out armor.
Sure, but we're talking about like another sequel, and I don't think it's enough this time to go what they did from D1 to D2. Like if you're gonna go from D2 to D3, which they've spent so much time making D2 the quality of life game that it is, right? We finally got the ability to change our appearance. Like they've invested so many of these things into D2 that it would feel like going back to the dark ages if we got a D3 and like 70% of these quality I know things are different than the way they were from D1 to D2, where, you know, it's like all those changes that they made didn't get rolled into D2 in time, and that's why D2 came out and stated it's like, I understand that there's, you know, insert whatever excuse or argument that could be made, like, oh, it's not going to be the same as this time, but it's like, you have to understand, like, I am very hesitant because of how D2 started that like D3 has to be something really drastic to sell me. And I think it needs to be something as extreme as the Hive and Fallen are playable classes, and they have their own, like they're as drastically different as a Titan.
Well,
Warlock,
maybe
or
they
Hunter.
do it as Guardian, you know, Risen, Fallen, and Lucent Hive, and they're the three classes.
Sure.
And if you're a Guardian, you can be Titan, Hunter, Warlock. If you're a same for the equivalent of the Lucent
Right.
Hive.
All right, Rob.
Yeah. So
Gun to your head, yes or no? Do you think it's happening?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if it's going to be an actual like D3 or if it's going to be some like
Rework of the
or like a side story spin-off. Like I still stand by
Well-
if you got some kind of like story that was like the Battle of the Twilight Gap or like Shin Malphur and Dredgen Yor, like you got some kind of like story, like more single player thing that kind of told like Destiny legends of the past. Like if you did something like that, I think it'd be really
Destiny
cool.
Chronicles.
Yeah, exactly. Like something of that nature. I think that would be really neat. Does that justify a whole new title? Probably not. And would people be on board with that? I don't know. I think people like to shoot things and get things that they can then use to shoot other things. Like I think
And people.
and other people. And I think
Mhm.
that's the loop that people want. But it's probably going to happen. I have a lot of questions, and I want to be wowed by it more than what D2 did to push the needle. Like it needs to be worth it.
Yeah. Worth the fundamental shift from
Right.
and
Well, we
losing
don't know. There's another game at the works at Bungie, isn't there? And we don't know if it's that there was a hero team shooter that they were working on. Maybe
Oh,
that
yeah.
was in the Destiny universe. Maybe we'll get a TV show. I know that's been in the rumors for a while since Sony stuff.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what else. I'm wondering if they did a thing where we get D3. After 5 months, they do a patch, or maybe less, and they add all of the stuff that was in D1 and D2 into it, like it's one whole game. Sort of like what we've saying about D2. They'll add all the D1 content back into D2, but it's in one package. But I don't know. Like I don't, because they've been slowly adding all the D1 to D2, and then making a new game with none of that is like, yeah, I agree, really dumb. And we can't as a community go back to one raid and like so many maps, and
Yeah.
it would just be really, if they did that again, that is shooting themselves in the foot, 100%. But then I don't know how you would get new people. That's the thing. You can't. The whole problem is new players, and how would you get new people without pissing off
Old ones.
Yeah, like
That's the age-old question.
Yeah,
And I feel like the game's been fighting for a long time.
I wonder if how D2 would have been if the launch was the same, but we had random rolls and it wasn't double primary. I'm wondering how different the game would have been, because if the chase of random rolls was still there, would that have kept the population going a bit more? And then, because I know people don't like how the game was and it was too new player friendly in some ways. But people didn't have complaints about the story at the time. One raid was kind of weak.
Yeah.
But the main complaints were the game was slow, there was no random rolls, so there was no chase for loot, and obviously double primaries. So I'm wondering how different the game would have been if those things were just changed. Like, say if we got a D3 and it launched the same way D2 did, but we had the weapon system and subclass we had now. Like, we just had prismatic. That was just, you have that.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, if they had a cadence of content releases like we have now, it might be fine. But I think you're going to have a lot of upset with the lack of content at launch. And that's any game like this is always going to be pretty sparse in content. Unless they ported a bunch of stuff over right at the beginning, right? You started off right away with some of the previous raids and they said, well, we're going to eventually bring them all over because that's the main reason people play. But but at that point, then why even do a reset? Like, I don't know. I also made a joke about this too. Like, I don't want to do another like Mida multi-tool quest because they're going to bring back like legacy exotics that people like, and it's just going to be this like we have Mida multi-tool again for like the third iteration, and it's like I feel like it's too. But at the same time, there's so many weapons, and so many of them are like uninteresting because there's a handful that are just so much better. So it's like maybe this game needs a hard reset of everything, but then you're also going to piss everyone off because none of their cosmetics are going to transfer over, right? All the emotes, all the transmog, all the ships, all the sparrows, all the like, all of that stuff needs to transfer over. But then if it does, it's just going to look like D2, but with less stuff.
Yeah,
like I don't think
as I said about having a PvE and a PvP game separate in the sense of you can't. There are some things that separate. They're a separate application. Right. Maybe they do that where there's a D3, but you can earn stuff in D2 still. Like they finished D2. That's it. It's done. All right. D3 comes out. One new raid. You don't like. You can have some of you can have your gear come across. And there's new stuff to earn, but it's a fresh reset for new players in the sense of there's a story and you have to obviously grind up and stuff, and you can only access stuff from say D2 at a certain point. Like you couldn't just bring cosmetics and titles and stuff because actually, you know what? I don't care about guns. I'm bored. I'm bored of it. If they brought cosmetics into D3 and titles and all that shit and the lore that you earn, I'd fucking happily start from scratch weapon-wise, armor-wise. As long as they brought the cosmetics, ship sparrows, shaders, as long as they brought that across, I couldn't give a shit about the guns, to be honest, anymore.
I don't know what that would look like.
It's gone on for too. I think it's gone on for too long now. Where I think ditch the guns, keep the cosmetics, like all your transmog stuff still there.
All right. Well, hypothetical question. All right. So we've covered.
Gun to your head again or no?
we've covered like what we want to have happen. But what do you realistically think the direction they're going to go with Destiny 3 is, as opposed to what you want? Full reset? You think so?
I think it'll be a full reset, and you'll have riots in the street because of not transferring of cosmetics.
Yeah, I'm here for it. The excitement of playing a new Destiny game and having no prior knowledge of systems in the game is fun. I want that.
I do too, but it needs to be.
It
needs to be good from day one.
I agree. Yeah. Oh yeah. There'd have to be at least 2 raids,
right?
And like a good amount of strikes, and you might as well just keep all the PvP maps.
Yeah,
I can't lose you to have 4.
So let's speaking of those exotics, let's talk about the new final shape exotics. So they revealed a couple new ones. Couple armor pieces and a couple of weapons. As a hunter, little sad I can't gatekeep golden gun anymore. That's kind of crazy. But there is some cool stuff. So we got microcosm, which looks pretty janky, pretty weird.
So it's a heavy
trace rifle.
Right, it's a heavy trace.
So
rifle.
you could run all trace rifles now if you so desired.
Which would be great for Xenotaph.
People can't figure out what element it is.
It looks like a stasis. It's definitely stasis.
But I thought people were saying they couldn't figure it out. Like, it's a traveler gun. It's a traveler beam. It would be weird if it's stasis.
Yeah, but what else would it be?
It's the beam of the traveler, like that it fired at the witness. It would be weird that it's stasis because the traveler doesn't have stasis.
Did they confirm that lore? Where did they?
Yeah, they didn't. There's nothing in the HUD either, so you can't determine. What if it's one of those kind of like the pre-order fusion rifle where it like matches just whatever your element is?
Yeah, it's possible.
I think it will just cycle through them. Not like you can control it, but it will just shift
Well, that could be kind of cool.
It's just random. It just shifts between them all. Like every 20 shots is just
Right.
a
What if
different-
it's kinetic?
Yeah,
I did hear people saying that, but how would that benefit of being a power weapon that's kinetic?
I think
Because
it's
then
kinetic because it says so. Like the trait is that it deals massive bonus damage to shields. So I think it just covers everything.
So it's
Right.
so it's like Arbalist.
Yes.
Right.
All right, that would make sense. Yeah, so it's like
That's my
Arbalist,
guess.
but it's kinetic. That would be interesting.
But that doesn't really make sense because it's an energy beam, and the reason
It's
that
a
we've
traveler.
never right, but the reason we've never gotten a kinetic fusion rifle is because that like goes against the in-game explanation of how fusion rifles work. Right, it needs to have some
Yeah.
like elemental energy
That-
source
yeah,
as like the
But
beams.
That's paracausal energy. It's not fusion rifle.
And it's a
yeah,
trace rifle. So
I
like
guess
maybe,
like
I don't know. Maybe they're just saying fuck it and
Yeah.
they're just throwing all the logic out the
Didn't they
window.
nerf or buff kinetic? What did they do to kinetic damage recently?
oh yeah, they're
Yeah,
doing
they
some
never-
kind of change to kinetic.
Yeah.
Speaking of kinetics, Kvastov is back
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, but this is like it's like drastically different. Like
Yeah, it's just kind of like, oh, it's Kvastov, so it's like that's like just the skin that they're going with is like, look, it's the original thing, but it's like completely different gameplay. Right?
People were angry that it's not the same as before, and it's like it was just a customizable auto rifle. There was literally nothing special about it at all.
Yeah.
I realized that. Oh,
I'm glad it's different.
Yeah, because it was just a gun. That's boring.
so
Yeah.
all that they're doing, the kinetic damage type no longer deals bonus damage to bosses. Damage to other combatant tiers is unchanged. So that might actually work out, right? Because then it's not like it's a heavy. If it is a heavy that does kinetic damage, it's not substantially better again. Like it's not going to be top choice because it innately just does 5% or 10% more damage to bosses versus like any other energy or any other heavy weapon. It's also the only heavy trace rifle that we have, so it's like, and it's allowed to kind of break the rules. So maybe it's like it's all of the elements, so it's none of them also, or something like that. Like
Yeah, I think it'll be something along those lines, which is cool. I think that'll be kind of fun.
Yeah.
The warlock chess piece, the however you pronounce that, and I'm gonna butcher this, Matiodoxia, or however you say it. Will it be good? Will it be bad?
what
Don't
is it
care.
for?
Don't care. It's just looks fun as hell. It's arcane needles cause a suspending
right.
detonation, so you can just like throw a bunch of like suspending things all over the place, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
The question is though, do you have to throw all three? Because then if that's the case, like how much are you actually going to be able to use it? And that's the part that kind of like,
it'll probably depend on like your strand build, is my guess.
yeah.
I'm sure there's like ways around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
If you play around with the melee, is it like? So is arcane? I don't play warlock. Is arcane needles? Is that like a charged melee option? Is that?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the strand. You get 3 of them, and that we always call
I
it
see,
one
I
of
see.
gang signs because you do like your weird like hand thing each time.
Yeah.
So, but in the video it showed you had to throw all 3 in order to get like the suspension, or at least that's kind of like how it's.
That is kind of what it looks like. You're right.
Which sucks because then it's like you have to get 3 charges up before you can like use it. Whereas like, how is that any better than just like
yeah.
a stun grenade, right? Like it needs like that. I mean, obviously it looked like it's a pretty substantial like explosion.
Maybe there's a new aspect or fragment that just gives you all your melees back if you do something with your grenade.
Yeah.
Consume both of your prismatic
Yeah.
bar or something like that.
Or you're just gonna run Monte Carlo all the time. Like
Yeah.
that could be
I
it
mean,
too.
yeah,
Because like
yeah.
there are some builds where it's like,
You,
I mean, Monte Carlo is great for that
you
because
could swap to it in your prismatic state as well,
right,
because that refreshes your stuff.
exactly. So
Yeah, you are right though. It definitely is the 3 that you have to spend to get the detonation. That's
I mean, it could also be delayed, right? It's like if you throw 1, maybe it suspends not as long, and you get like the maximum benefit from it by the number of melees that you pump into it, right? Like
I
it
do
could be something like
think
that.
it should have been a gauntlet for the warlock, but they
Yeah, I agree.
gave it to a chess piece purely for the fact that we haven't had a warlock chess piece in ages.
Well, and there's like 8,000 exotic
Yeah.
warlock gauntlets. So
Yeah.
I get that they did that, but yeah, it's a melee based
Yeah, it's
thing.
kind of
So
funny.
yeah,
Actually, to be fair, Insurmountable Skull Fort seems like it should be on your legs, but it's helmet. So
Yeah.
you know,
Fair enough. And then there's a so the Arc Hunter chess piece is Gifted Conviction. Arc aspects create bouncing explosives. So it like throws out a bunch of little arc grenades. And I don't really understand the wording. Arc aspects?
so like anything that's like basically an arc element, right? So it's like it could be your melee, it could be your dodge, it could be anything that's from the arc subclass thing. I
Okay.
think will benefit. So it's like if you have like, so what are aspects? Is that like combination blow and like those are because the fragments are like the little sub thing. Where it's like
right.
Ember of Appearance and of fragment. So okay, so like I think anything that pulls from that. So it could be like your dodge potentially as well, depending on what like. I'm also curious if those little bouncing things do like have like a blinding effect or anything like that, which would be kind of neat. But
it doesn't look like it. If you look at the video where he pops his super and the detonation goes off, and it doesn't have like the little like red fade around the enemy's face if they get blinded or anything like that.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate. But
so it's kind of like Bombardiers, but Bombardiers actually gives you like the arc effect. But
yeah, I don't think this one's going to be very good if I had to bet money on it.
What about the Titan?
The Titan armor, hazardous propulsion, is a chess piece, exotic chess piece, and the little gimmick is class ability fires rockets. So
when I first saw the name, I thought it was Twilight Garrison. But they wouldn't bring it back and not call it Twilight Garrison because people would get annoyed.
Yeah.
But I do think it is very interesting to run with the dodge, and with the shield. With the shield, it's kind of a bitch move. I can't lie. You're low, you just put up a shield, missiles come out. Don't know how much damage they do in PvP. They're probably kind of crap in PvE and more of a gimmick. Like, there's no reason to use it unless it's like a build. Unless someone somehow finds a way. Like, did we see what element they are? Or are they element based on your subclass?
It's probably element based on subclass.
So could they proc Devour if you run Sentinel? Or something like that, or Volatile.
I could see them being super annoying in PvP, though.
Yes, I did think, what is the damage? Even as a Titan, I did think, like, that's going to be fucking annoying. Like, someone dodges. But as I was saying to you earlier, I hope they bring back Twilight Garrison, not as it was in D1, but just give you an extra dodge that the Titans have on the Arc subclass.
I guess if we look at it from the PvP angle, if we go back to the Hunter one, I guess that could be good. If you like, I don't know.
I think
chip away and then dodge and then
I think
get a kill from
Titan
dodging.
and Hunter one are way more PvP based.
I think so too.
I think they're not as fussed about the exotics purely for the fact of the exotic sub class items that are coming.
Yeah,
and so we're gonna have all these weird combinations for that. So I mean, I haven't got most of the new type like exotics because I just can't be bothered to run Lost Sector.
I know Lost Sector.
Like, I just can't be bothered. I know they're changing that now.
Do Vex incursions?
It crashes.
Oh, even more fun.
I've never been able to complete one because every time I've done one, it has crashed my PS5.
Still?
Yeah, it still does it.
Oh my god, that's amazing. After a year, they never fixed that.
It will get to the final part, and it will like every time without fail. I've done so many of them every time.
That's awesome. That's legendary.
Insane.
So there should be another. I thought I saw they posted like it's not on the twat, but isn't there a gun? It's like a sniper or something that lets you get a golden gun or something.
Yes, yes, they talked about that
called
in the reveal.
The Still Hunt.
The Still Hunt.
So
yeah.
I love Golden Gun. Don't really like Hunter, but I love Golden Gun.
So of course the ultimate question though with that gun is, will Celestial Nighthawk work with it?
Probably not.
Yeah, but like, what if?
I reckon it won't, purely from a coding standpoint.
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't think it'll work.
It kind of feels like the spiritual successor to what was the what?
Zen Meteor.
Yes, exactly. But
what did Zen Meteor do?
Zen Meteor was like if you got 3 kills, then your 4th shot would be like
super powerful and it would just kill it.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering. I'm pretty sure I could be mistaken. In the gameplay, was he hip firing it? Because I'm wondering, can you once you get the golden gun, do you get a change of state, and does it give you a reticle while hip firing, and it is basically just a golden gun, or is it like a sniper where you have to aim it? Because that would be quite interesting. Because I really like golden gun, but I like the 6-shooter version.
So it looked like one of the shots he ADS'd, and then the other one he hip fired.
But was the hip fire one because he was so close to the target it didn't matter?
I don't know. That's the problem with some of these showcase videos where it's like super flashy and
because I think the gun will be but if you can hip fire it, it will be way more accessible and probably feel better to use.
Right.
Is this is a special, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably.
It would, if it's a heavy, it's just going to be like Darcy, where it's just like,
well, it's going to be garbage if it's heavy.
No one touching that.
Okay. I mean, I'm wondering. I wonder how much power you have to charge up to get the golden gun.
Can you imagine you trying to build your special meter up in PvP while trying to kill a meter up on that gun?
Yeah.
But if you die, it goes away.
Well, and there's lots of questions like if you stow it, or does your stacks go away and all that.
I feel like it would have been a lot stronger in the old sandbox of ammo dropping. Now it is subpar. There's going to be clips of it, like it'll be like mounted. Maybe it'll be like mounted in the sense of you can do weird shit with it, but it's not actually that good. I mean, I won't use it if the gun feels too sluggish. Like I will just not use it as a sniper. I've got loads of other snipers I could use.
It could be good for like DPS phases, depending on like how much power it takes to charge it up. It could be pretty cool if it's not too cumbersome to get going.
Because it'd be weird if you couldn't stow it.
Right. Yeah, it could be kind of like an Izanagi's burden thing, right? Where you swap to it for like that giga shot, and then you use it.
I reckon that coding wise, there's more of a chance Star Eaters works with it.
Oh, that could be neat.
What did Star Eaters do again? I don't have that one.
Or it's picking up orbs of power like overcharges your super.
Because if it's like, because I know people were speculating that maybe it used that would be dumb, but coding wise, I don't think Star Eaters will work with it, but I think it has a higher chance of working in it based on coding because of the way Celestial Nighthawk, I reckon, is put in the game. It requires golden gun.
Yeah. Well,
and obviously the gun is not class. It's not class based.
I mean, Star Eater specifically, the wording on Star Eater scales like specifically references super though.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. People were saying, is it like activating a super? Like people were thinking, oh, does it drain my super like Aegis Scepter?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I mean. I don't think it will work with Star Eater, but coding level wise, I reckon it has a higher.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It'd be kind of neat if it actually was like a hunter specific, and then it would like.
No, I want my Titan to golden gun. I want a cape. Saladin, give me your cape.
I'm just saying, like, it would be kind of neat as like sort of a throwback to like Taken King, right, where we got the exotic class specific exotic weapons, and then we also got those specials, right? You got Steel Piercer and the that shotgun and Susano or whatever for the warlock, right? Like, but like, you know, it'd be kind of neat where it's like then I guess Tesseract kind of is like Susano, where it like changes its element type
you've
based on your
unlocked the
grenade.
memory. My friend was a fusion rifle main when that gun came out, and he'd use it in trial, and he'd just refer to it as Susan.
Susan.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's all he just referred to it. He's like, oh, I'm using Susan. That's all he was.
I used to call it Susano, like the Phil Collins song. But
oh my gosh.
I mean, Talalok was good. The Titan one was dreadful.
Yeah, the shotgun. I don't even remember what the shotgun did. Like,
no, I meant about the auto. The shotgun was there.
Oh, the auto was pretty cool. It was like
shit. I think they buffed it, but when it came out, it was. Dreadful.
Oh yeah, it was. It was
a meme, wasn't it? Because like I remember Datto doing a bunch of raids with it because like that much. Wasn't it that when you hip fired, it fired faster? And when you ADS'd, it fired.
No, as you got it had rampage or crowd control, and I think as you got closer to enemies, like physically closer, it would like speed up rate of fire.
I reckon that would be good now, because crowd control is just rampage. That's what it.
Yeah, exactly. Increases handling stability and rate of fire when enemies are close. Kills automatically reload a portion of the mag, and because it has crowd control and life support.
So that was basically Rampage surrounded, in a sense.
Yeah.
Or Threat Detector.
Kind of like Huckleberry too, right? Where it's
and then so I think that would be quite strong in D2. In D1, no, it was dreadful.
Right.
But I think
that was Fabian's strategy was the name of it too.
That was it. And then Hunter's got Ace, and obviously, you know,
right. Ace of Spades was pretty cool because it had Firefly, and then if you got a kill, it would just like reload a bullet in the magazine, which was neat.
Yeah.
I prefer the Destiny 2 Ace though.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then, is there any other exotics we missed? I think that's all of them.
Yeah, that's all of them.
Yeah, okay.
I reckon there'll be more.
There will be more for sure.
More weapons.
Oh yeah.
Like, there'll be obviously a raid exotic. There'll be other stuff.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
I'm wondering if there'll be a secret mission. I mean, there's a theorized secret mission after the raid, but I mean like a secret exotic mission.
Well, it's not going to be a secret mission, right? They just said like when you play the campaign, there's going to be 7 missions, and then the 8th one unlocks, which is some kind of like
mystery around it. I mean, like, you know, like 0 hour, you know, mission.
Oh, sure.
We get one of those because just how the game's been, like, you know, they're not going to be talking. They said they were going to keep a lot of stuff close to their chest.
Oh, sure.
Anyways, I think that's about everything. So this was fun. Obviously, thank you guys for hopping on and chatting with me. Thank you guys for listening. We will be absolutely covering the final shape as it comes out, and please check out our Twitch streams. Rob streams fairly often these days, it seems like. And
we wheel him out every week.
Yeah. I may try to stream the our run of Pantheon, the final.
Ooh.
So then we'll
Should we do a stream for Final Shape?
Yeah, I will try to stream the night it comes out.
Good luck with
I put like a no spoilers thing. I always like to run it by myself, just like take my time and. I'm probably not doing the raid race. I don't know, maybe. So
because isn't it like something?
It's like the Friday right after it comes out.
Yeah,
and I will be doing the day one. I'm actually taking that day off from work.
Nice.
I think I'm already starting to feel a little under the weather.
I might do a day one purely because it's that week.
Right.
And I could say I don't know who's doing it. I haven't because everyone's not been playing, so I don't know. But I might try. I will stream that if I do day one.
Yeah, and we're probably gonna we're probably going to give it a good college try on Friday, and if we're like struggling, we might take a break, and then Saturday, after a bunch of content creators have beaten it and mastered it, and try to cheese the guides a little bit too if we're struggling.
I'll do a run with you guys because we haven't done any raids.
I know. Well, we just one of these days we should just run a raid in general.
We really should. It's just hard
Find
to
out how shit we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'll look like a fraud if I have the Godslayer title and don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
How do you take the gaze?
So yeah, if you want to check out any of that stuff, hop over at Twitch TV or .tv, whatever the link is, /Eventide Radio, and check us out. We're on Twitter as well. Send us a message, email us. It's just Eventide Radio. So without further ado, peace out. Thanks for hopping on, and I'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You can put this voice recording away and go on with your life, because you and I both know you'd have me yapping in your ear for the rest of your days.
Want to further the discussion? Get in touch with us at any of our Twitter handles, all of which can be found at our podcast description.